what is environmental inventory. Correct. So environmental inventory is a complete description of the environment as it exists in an area. So that description of the environment as it exists, that one we call it as environmental inventory. What is EIA? EIA consists of the documentation of environmental analysis, which includes identification of impacts, interpretation of impacts, prediction of impacts, evaluation of impacts, and remedial measures for the project that is being considered. So it consists of mainly the environmental analysis, and wherein we'll be showcasing the impacts and interpreting the results and evaluating those impacts, and if these particular impacts are going to be environmentally controversial, or if they are going to cause significant environmental impact, in that particular case we'll be considering the remedial measures. So EIA report consists of all these things. What is EIS? So the environmental impact statement is documentation of environmental analysis, but it is being prepared as stated by Department of Environment for the projects which are going to cause significant environmental impact, or the project might be environmentally controversial. So I told you that when we'll be going for EIA and when we'll be going for EIS and when we'll be going for what is called as negative declaration. That is, if the project is neither considered to be environmentally controversial nor it is going to cause significant environmental impact, then negative declaration report will be prepared, and as per that EIA will be prepared. If the project is going to fall under any of the three categories, the first category is the project is going to cause significant environmental impact. The second category, the project is environmentally controversial. The third one, it is a project listed as a project requiring EIS. In those particular cases, EIS will be prepared. Now, if we would like to understand how actually the EIA will be conducted stepwise, in that particular case, we need to consider this flow chart. So what this flow chart is all about? So this flow chart gives an idea about how this particular the process of EIA will be carried out. So if I consider the first step, identify action, that means the federal and state agencies, so first they should identify the action which is being proposed by the proponent or the person or the agency who would like to initiate the project. Say, to give an example, so let us say someone would like to start a sugar industry in particular location. So in that case, the action is well defined. That means that agency or a person or an industrialist would like to start the sugar industry. That is the action he would like to initiate. The second step includes identifying the activities. So when I'm talking about the activities, see, if you are going to consider the construction of sugar industry, it's not going to be just construction. It's going to have operation as well. So what all the activities that will be coming under this particular sugar industry? So sugar industry, when we consider a particular site is required, that means the owner or the industrialist is going to give the proposal stating that this land will be utilized for the industrial operation purposes. In that case, the guidelines states that whether this particular area falls under the endangered animal species, it is located within 5 kilometers of the national park or any other forest area, or whether major mineral resources are available, or whether this particular area has got some cultural importance, or whether the site has got some archaeological importance. If any of these particular criteria are being considered, if the answer is yes to any of these particular criteria, then it will be considered as environmentally controversial. That means, see, when I'm talking about archaeological sites or when I'm talking about historical sites, so if you construct the industry, you may not be causing any impact, you may not be cutting down any trees, but you're destroying the archaeological site or historical site. That means that particular cultural importance is lost because of consideration of the proposal. So in that case, right, just to overrule the controversial matter, EIA is required. So it is not exactly EIA. EIA process is required, but EIS document is required if it is environmentally controversial. So I am making use of EIA process and I am making use of EIS document. See, in EIA process, EIS document will come, EIA document will come, negative declaration will come, or I may say FONSI, that is finding of no significant impact, that document will come. EIA is a process. It has to be carried out stepwise. So the first step is identify the actions. That means which action is being proposed by the proponent. That is the first question. As I was talking about construction of sugar industry and operation of the same. So initially the proponent is going to propose some hectares of land. That means he might opt for deforestation. Before going for construction activities, the industrialist is going to go for deforestation. That is the primary requirement for the construction activity. The second is he needs to have the connectivity between his industry and the road. That means highway. That means he is going to give the proposal for approach road. That means not only some part of the forest area is lost or some part of the area wherein the trees were present, that will be lost, but also some land will be taken for the approach road. Again, there land clearance will be considered. That means there will be deforestation again. That means this is one of the requirement. The second, if I'm talking about activity at the construction site, if you are going for construction, that means various activities will be coming. That means first is site access. I told you that approach road is required, or if you are talking about mining and all, sometimes you might be going for rail network or tracks, okay, or the industrialist might also require water, so he might ask for pipelines also. So these are some of the activities that will be coming under site access. So when I'm talking about support facilities, so it might be something called as personal support or utility provision, or he might be making use of some of the materials for construction of the road. It might be asphalt or aggregate or concrete operations might be taking place to construct the approach road till his site where the sugar industry is being proposed. Apart from that, at the site preparation is required. That means there tree removal or deforestation will be coming, and some existing structures, if they are there, those needs to be cleared or demolished. And apart from that, whenever he is going to start the construction, the first thing is the excavation activity. So that means in the first one, I've talked about site access. To get to his site, first a connectivity is required. Either a rail network or a road network is required. That means approach road is required. That means we call it as site access related activities. The second one I have told is support facilities. Either it might be in terms of materials or it might be in terms of utilities. Either it might be electricity, water supply, or it might be the facilities in terms of labors, or it might be in terms of asphalt, concrete, all these things and machineries. So these things will be coming under the support facility operation. The third one I'm talking about is site preparation. So when I'm talking about site preparation, so usually the first thing is we'll be going for clearing the land area. Then comes the excavation related activities. So again depends what kind of soil is present at the site, and based on that he is going to give the proposal for the design of these particular foundation works. So depending on the type of the soil and load carrying capacity, he is going to give the proposal. Then he might also ask for some of the quarrying and subsurface excavation activities as well, because if it is made up of BC soil or the water table is very high, so in that case the draining of the water is very much essential. So those things also will be coming under the activities head. Apart from that, bituminous construction is required, concrete mixing is required, masonry construction is required, steel construction is required, and he will be going for finishing works. So it might be in terms of electrical works, plumbing works, cleanup operation, landscape or painting. These all things will be coming under what is called as the finishing activities. So that means when I'm talking about the activities related to a project, action is what? Nothing but project. Project will have several activities. It might be with respect to site access, it might be with respect to support facilities or site preparation, or it might be related with excavation, quarrying, foundation, or construction related activities. So it might be in terms of bituminous construction or concrete construction or masonry construction, or the building might be considered in terms of steel construction, or sometimes he might propose for timber construction as well. So it depends totally on that. And lastly, it will be the finishing related activities. So these things will be considered separately in the EIA process. I'm not using the word EIA document. I'm making use of the word EIA process. In EIA process, either we might go for EIA document, EIS document, or negative declaration document. That is different. This is the flow chart that corresponds to step-by-step process for conducting EIA. These are the various steps by which environmental impact assessment is done. Based on the results and the findings, we might go for EIA, we might go for EIS, or we might go for negative declaration. So for doing that, first the action should be considered, which is being proposed by the proponent. The second step is identify the activities associated with the proposed action. If there are two proponents, one would like to start coal mining and another person would like to start sugar industry, and there are two different sites. You cannot mix up the activities related with mining to the industrial process. Both have to be considered as a separate entities. So that's why there will be number of EIA, right? That needs environmental clearance for various actions. I'm making use of the word actions. Action corresponds to projects. These projects will have several activities, and those activities may be controversial, may not be controversial. Those activities might be causing significant impact on environment, or they may not be causing significant impact on the environment, right? These activities might be of concern or they may not be of environmental concern. So Without identifying these activities, we cannot come to conclusion. The third step is examine the attributes. So what do you mean by attribute in the exam, right? The question will be asked. List various environmental attributes. These environmental attributes are going to be something like air, water, soil, land, right? Population, right? Cultural environment, social environment. What is the sound level? So all these things will be coming under attributes. So why we need to examine the attributes? See, before the clearance is given to the person, we should check what kind of air quality is present at right now at this particular place. What quality of air is present in this area before giving the approval to the industrialist. Second is, what are the quantities of pollutants that are being present in this particular site? So whether already some kind of gases are coming out because of presence of some volcanoes nearby to this particular place. So these questions needs to be answered in the EIA process, right? So the next is whether the environmental attribute is water. In that case, what is the source of water in this particular area? So it might be a lake, it might be a well, it might be a river. What is the quality of river water? What is the quality of well water? What is the quality of the lake water? So answering these questions will be coming under step number 3, that is examine the attributes. I repeat, identify action means we are going to identify the project, and as per the project, specific activities will be related to that project. So if we consider, if we are going to consider the sugar industry, why we need to consider the examination of the attributes? See, once the approval is given, you might have seen that many of the sugar industries will be discharging foul gases, and that can be felt about 2 kilometers away from that particular industry. So that means through chimneys, the gases might be flowing in the upward direction. In spite of that, the foul gas will be felt by individual about 2 kilometers from the place of origin. So that means this is why we need to examine the air quality before giving the approval. That means we need to check what is the quality of air in terms of sulfur dioxide, in terms of oxides of nitrogen, in terms of carbon dioxide. So you are going to document the existing air quality levels. What is the amount of oxygen present in this particular area? How it is varying over a period of time? In future, what will be the air quality without considering the project? If this sugar industry is not allowed in this particular area, after 20 years down the line, if the city is going to grow in this fashion, if this is the population, if these are the number of vehicles that will be moving in this particular area, in that case, after 20 years or 30 years, what will be the air quality in this particular area? So you are going to examine the attributes for the present condition without considering the project, and you are going to predict it to the future without considering the project, right? That is required, because if I'm talking about water, at present this is a population, 10,000 is a population, and there are around two rivers which are flowing. There is some historical place at this particular area, and because of that, right, it is expected to have some job opportunities, and because of this the people from other areas might migrate because it is going to be a tourist attraction. In that case, suddenly the population of that particular area might jump to 1 lakh. So that means what has happened? Someone has found some historical place, and because of that the area has got importance in terms of tourism, and because of that migration of the people have taken place, and suddenly the population has increased. That means as a population increases, oxygen demand increases, water requirement increases. And apart from that, if the industrial are being allowed to go for industrial activities, so that means they cannot run without water. Water is required, electricity is required, raw material is required. At present, the agricultural activity is something with respect to vegetables. If sugar industry is going to come up, that means this industrialist will be forcing the farmers to grow sugarcane because it is considered to be commercial crop. So because of this, what will happen to the balance between population and food? If nearby people start growing sugarcane and no one is going to go for the food grains in terms of vegetables, rice, wheat, right? So because of that, what will happen? So these questions needs to be answered. To answer these questions, first we need to examine the attributes in terms of air, water, soil, all these things. Then we are going to evaluate the impacts. We need to evaluate the impacts by considering individual activities. Now, excavation. Whether excavation is going to have an impact on water quality. So whenever we go for excavation, that means we'll be going for, right, removing the soil and excavation of trenches, and that means whenever there will be rainfall, so there will be flowing of water, and along with the rainwater which will be flowing on the ground, the material which has been loosened because of excavation activity will be carried to either nearby lake or nearby pond or nearby rivers. And because of this, what will happen? There will be soil erosion. The second is going to be increased contaminant load in the river or in the lake, because the mineral deposition will be taking place in this particular river or lake. And because of this, suspended solid concentration might be increasing. And because of some pollution problems, what will happen is the dissolved oxygen in the river might decrease, and because of that there will be impact on the fishes or aquatic life, and fishes might be getting killed. You consider the example of operation of the sugar industry. When I say operation of the sugar industry, that means after the sugar cane is processed, that means we are going to get one finished product and other one is waste product. Regarding finished product, it will be sold in the market, it will be transported to marketplace, so there is no problem. When it comes to waste product, it might be in the form of gases, it might be in the form of liquid, it might be in the form of solid. If I consider the liquid waste coming from the sugar industry, which has got a BOD value greater than 15,000 mg per liter, that means the concentration of biodegradable organic matter is greater than 15,000 mg per liter. If this effluent is discharged into the river, what will happen? It is going to cause the organic pollution. If there is drop in the dissolved oxygen level, there will be increased load of organic pollutants in the water. Either it might be river water or lake water, and because of that, the aquatic animals will be getting killed. If you have aquarium at your own place, small changes in the temperature, small changes in the oxygen level is going to kill those particular fishes. This is just a simple example just to convince you people. Same way, if I consider thermal power plant, that means hot water will be released into the environment. And because of this, what will happen? The temperature of the water increases wherever that water is being discharged into lake or the river water. And because of that, the fishes will be getting killed. Because as the temperature increases, the dissolved oxygen concentration decreases. See, we people breathe air, oxygen, around 16 kg per day. On average, we consume oxygen around 16 kg per day. Likewise, the fishes will be consuming the oxygen present in the dissolved form, right? That is present in the water. We cannot breathe that dissolved oxygen because our cells and tissues have been developed in such a way that we can uh, intake the oxygen present in the atmosphere only. Same way, the cells and tissues of the aquatic animals, for example, fishes, have been developed in such a way that they are going to make use of the dissolved oxygen only. If this dissolved oxygen decreases either because of organic pollution or because of discharge of some hot water, the fishes will be getting killed. That means that is what the ecological impact we are talking about. That means we need to evaluate the impacts. So which are the positive impacts, which are the negative impacts, and this positive impact is due to whether construction activity or some operation related activities, right? So we need to answer the question. That means which impacts will be caused by which activity. So that is very important. Then we are going to summarize the impacts. The negative impacts, the activities which are going to cause the negative impacts will be marked with X sign. The activities which will be causing negative impacts, adverse impacts on the environment will be marked with X, indicating it is not good or it causes, this activity causes negative impacts. The impacts which are going to have positive effects on the environment will be marked with plus sign. Plus sign indicates positive impacts. If I am going to connect the metro area with the village, it will have positive impact if talking about road network or rail network. If I'm going to connect metro area and village area either by rail network or road network, there will be social upgradation of the village people. How? Because the village people will get an opportunity to get educated. So they may not be having the opportunity to learn or educate themselves. That means this is one of the positive impact because of connecting village and metro with a road network or rail network. Apart from that, they might be economically backward, and because of connection either in the form of road or railways, so they will be reaching to these particular areas or they might be migrating to metro areas, and they will be showcasing their skills and they will be getting the job opportunities, and because of that, right, their economical background is going to get enhanced. That means these are few examples, so which will give insights about the positive impacts because of few of the activities. So the positive impacts will be marked with plus sign, negative impacts will be marked with the X sign. Okay. Review the alternatives. After you summarize positive impacts and net negative impacts, so we need to review the alternative. That means whether the construction of the building or construction of the sugar industry should be done by steel structure or whether it should be done by concrete. So when I say concrete, it has gone its own plus and minus. Same way when I'm talking about steel, that means it is costly. Again, it has got its own plus and minus, right? That means positive side and negative side. So similarly, the design of the foundations can be changed. That means I can go for tile foundation or I can go for raft footings. That means there will be changes in the foundation. Or instead of having the site at A, we can have the site at B. That means instead of having the project at location A, we can have the location at B. So what are going to be the changes in the impacts? That means that needs to be right quantified by the proponent or the industrialist. So we are going to review the alternatives. So whichever the alternative gives minimum impact, so that will be considered for analysis findings. So to go for analysis finding, we need to ask three questions just to understand whether to prepare EIA report or EIS report or just to mention negative declaration. So which are those questions that we'll be asking? So the first question is whether it is going to have significant environmental impact, or whether it is going to be environmentally controversial, or whether the project and the alternatives are going to be the major line of action. To any of these questions, if the answer is yes, we go for EIS document. To all the question, if the answer is no, we go for EIA. Right? I repeat, after going from step number 1 to step number 6, see here, identify action is the first step, identify activities is the second step, examine the attribute is the third step, evaluate the impacts is the fourth, summarize the impact is fifth, and review the alternatives is sixth. After going through all these 6 steps, we are going to ask 3 questions. To any of these questions, if the answer is yes, we go for EIS, or else we go for EIA. Before going for EIA, we'll be going for negative declaration, or I may say FONSI, that is finding of no significant impact. We'll be documenting it in terms of EIA. If it is environmentally controversial, or if it is going to have significant environmental impact, or if it is considered to be a major line of item, then EIS will be documented, a draft report will be prepared, and after it is being put forth in front of the public, we are going to prepare the final EIS document and it will be submitted to Department of Environment at least 30 days prior to commencement of the work, right? So that means before the construction activity starts, right, we need to have the environmental clearance that is approved from Department of Environment side. So this is regarding what is called as step-by-step procedure for conducting EIA. If you have any doubt, you are free to ask. So this is what I wanted to discuss for today's class. If you have any questions, you are free to ask. So in tomorrow's class, I'll be discussing